Cold Ground is a found footage horror movie that's similar to what we've seen before. But what's the monster in this one? Well, they do mention Bigfoot and werewolves, but in the end I don't think that's the case. It's actually much more unique than that. So bundle up with some hot cocoa, because it's getting chilly in Cold Ground. First, we meet David and Melissa, two journalists sent to investigate some missing cattle in the mountains along the country of France and Switzerland. Apparently, over 20 cows and a horse have gone missing, and they don't know why. First, they meet with Professor Gunther Hermann, who gives them some of his theories. He believes that it's a biological disease. They've discovered a new strand of bacteria up in the mountains, and it's mutating fast. Gunther works with a team camped up on the mountain at a research base called Pinewood. I used to race Pinewood Derby cars and Scouts when I was a kid. That has nothing to do with this movie, but hey, I did. There is some bad news, however. Gunther hasn't heard anything from the base camp for a few days. The radio's out, but they should have driven down the mountain by now. And that's where Blake Turner comes into play. He's an American who's dealt with a similar case like this, and he's been sent to help out and try to find the research base. After dinner and a good night's rest, Melissa, David, and Blake meet their guide, Daniel, and another researcher, Lorianne. Gunther stays behind. Smart man. For the next hour or so, this is what you get. I'm not complaining. I knew that this movie was going to have a lot of walking around in the snow, but still, it's a lot of walking around in the snow. They do stop every once in a while to take a load off and tell some stories to try to keep it interesting. Take Blake, for example. They wonder about the case that he's dealt with over in the U.S. He was sent to investigate a missing horse, Snippy. When it was found, the skull had been ripped off its body and torn to bits, but with almost surgical precision, just like the cows they found on this mountain. Lorianne speculates that this isn't bacteria or a predator, but humans, a cult, maybe even an animal sacrifice. At night, they set up camp, and Daniel gives them the lowdown on how to survive the night in such frigid temperatures. I gotta admit, Daniel knows his stuff. It would be a shame if something were to happen to him. Spoiler alert, something happens to him. They make it through the night with little problems. They do hear something in the distance, but it doesn't really do anything, just drops a deer bone by their tents. As they continue to walk, we learn that before they reach Pinewood, there's another base camp called Cold Ground. Called that because, get this, the ground's always cold there. But they don't make it there today. A blizzard's coming, so they have to set up camp for the night. The next day, they find even more carnage, this time from a cow. Worse yet, they discover that it's radioactive. Nothing else eventful happens this day, and once again they're in their tents at night. They hear something outside and see the tracks left behind by an animal, looking like bear tracks, but they should be hibernating this time of year. As they wander around, they find more remains, this time human. Uh-oh.
This is now officially a criminal investigation.
Worse yet, even though they're getting closer and closer to Pinewood, there's still no answer on the radio. In the morning, they walk around a bit, they find more blood, but then, off in the distance, they hear a thunderous sound. That's not a monster, that's an avalanche. Everyone lives and they're gonna be just fine. No, check that. David's messed up his ankle, and Daniel, their guide, and the only one who knows the way to Pinewood, is missing in the snow. I would think it'd be pretty important to hunt around for him a while, or maybe at this point cut your losses and head back down the mountain. But they're so close to Cold Ground, so they keep on hiking. And as luck would have it, they find the camp. destroyed, covered in snow. And now they only have one tent because Daniel had the other one. At night, my worst fear comes true. Something presses against the tent. They go out to take a look, and, well, it's safe to say that this guy didn't do it. He's been dead for a while, and now the group knows that they're not safe. I kind of figured it out a few days ago when they found a bloody bone outside their tent, but okay, sure, now they're not safe.
Stay close and stay quiet.
A little later, they find yet another dead body. This one's skinned. But wait, it's not dead. And like a zombie, it attacks. Only to get taken out by something. Somehow, they make it to morning and it seems to be safe. Those things must be nocturnal. Our first clue to what they actually are. At this point, I guess everyone agreed. They're not making it to Pinewood, and it's time to start heading down the mountain. Good choice. As they go, David's ankle isn't getting any better, and it looks like they're going to need medical attention soon. While resting, this is where Blake thinks maybe it's Bigfoot, a foreign concept to Daniel and Melissa.
Maybe it's Bigfoot.
What's Bigfoot?
She thinks it's werewolves. It's interesting to see different cultures here. I'm an American. I would believe in Bigfoot over werewolves, but I guess that's not the case in France.
A werewolf.
No.
Inside the tent, they actually try to explain why they're filming all this. They're using the light on the camera because all but one flashlight was lost in the avalanche, so they need the camera to see. Ordinarily, you could just turn the lamp on without filming, but here it's jammed. That might sound kinda lame, but hey, at least they tried to explain it. Now they decide they want to have a fire, which I would think would be a bad idea, only attracting the monsters. I mean, they've gone this long without a fire, but what do I know? They don't get a chance anyway, because Blake's attacked. Melissa runs around for a while until she finally gets some good news. She found Blake. The bad news, he's not gonna make it.
Get up! Get up!
They run around all night and finally make it to morning, where we can see they're still pretty high up on the mountain. The snow's deep and David's ankle isn't getting any better. At least the scenery's nice. Finally, David falls down exhausted. He just can't go any further. His foot's too far gone. And at night, he asks Melissa to do the unthinkable. Chop it off. How would that help? Chances are you're just gonna bleed out. But she does it anyway. I'll spare you the gory details. This is only here to shock the audience and make me squirm. It doesn't really matter anyway, because, yep, you guessed it, David's killed by the creatures. It's just Melissa now, and she takes off running into the darkness, being chased, until she falls into a cave. She wanders around for a while, finding not much except some bats chilling out. Eventually, she accepts her fate. She ain't gonna make it out of here alive. So she sits down to record her last words. But she's not alone. Something is crawling behind her. She takes off running, and good thing too, because she makes it outside. She runs and runs all the way off a cliff. And that's all she wrote. Melissa's not killed by evil creatures or even an avalanche. She died because she didn't look where she was going. So just what were those monsters? Well, this is my theory. They're mutated bats. I mean, they kind of look like bats in the first place with their long ears. They only come out at night, otherwise they're hiding in a cave. The cow carcass they found was radioactive, so I think that's what triggered the mutation. Or was it that new bacteria strain they found up there? Well, maybe, but I think that affected the scientists. You did see that one that was skinned. When he attacked, it was more like a zombie than a guy who didn't have skin. I thought for a minute there that the bat creatures were going to be the good guys, like a virus broke out at Pinewood and turned everyone into the living dead, and then the bat monsters killed them off before they could reach the mainland. But when they started attacking everyone, that all kind of went out the window. Personally, I like this one. Again, I'm a sucker for found footage, I admit that, but I'm also a sucker for a good suit. And although you don't really see it as much as I would like, the suit and Cold Ground look great. I do have to admit it's not a perfect movie. There's a lot of walking around where nothing's happening, and that cutting off David's foot was completely uncalled for. However, if you want a found footage movie that's like the rest, but with a unique monster, then check out Cold Ground. I give it 2.5 Pinewood Derby cars out of 4.
A lot of freaky creatures living up here.